your thoughts and feelings towards the increasing role of AI in everyday life over the next 10 years. So 40% of people are saying that they are worried or skeptical about that.
That's huge and a really stark reminder. I wonder, how has that knowledge, and presumably you've done others previously to sort of understand your own organization, how's that tempered the way that you've gone about, or informed the way that you've gone about AI rollout within YouGov?
It provides us with a very solid grounding and sort of that holding up a mirror, if you like, that just because tech people in our business, leaders in our business get excited about AI doesn't mean that everybody else will.
What have you got in mind for the future when you're sitting around with your leadership? What are the big things that you've got your eyes on?
Growth is the outcome, and things that will support us along that way. More interesting jobs for our staff. Ways that we can gain competitive advantage and deliver that to our clients. Those are sort of the big things that we're looking at. I'm not sure I can go into too much detail about the next big AI project, but do watch this space because it is super exciting.
This episode is brought to you by Instant Impact. Instant Impact provides transformative talent solutions to small and mid-sized companies that are making between 30 and 500 hires each year. If your recruitment's giving you a headache and you don't know where to start, then give the team at Instant Impact a call or visit www.instant-impact.com for more information. Hello and welcome to We Need to Talk About AI. I'm your host, Felix Mitchell. How useful is technology really when it comes to really complex questions like understanding humans and understanding human decision making? What are the risks of relying on past behavior when it comes to predicting future decisions? And how do businesses tread the line between giving clients the AI solutions that they say they want and maintaining high quality outputs? These are just some of the important questions that we're going to be running through today with today's guest, Will Ullstein, and that he's perfectly placed to explore. Will is the UK CEO of YouGov. Market research is another one of those industries expecting rapid and widespread change in the age of AI. And as ever, I think the reality is not quite that simple. So I'm really looking forward to learning more about Will and YouGov and how they see the future. Will, welcome to the show.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for having me, Felix. Really delighted to be here.
So let's jump in. I think one of the really interesting perspectives that you get, I'd imagine, at YouGov is that you sort of specialize in understanding opinion and how large populations think about key topics. So as an individual and as a business in that fascinating space, how are you seeing AI right now?
Really great question. I mean, from our point in YouGov and me personally, super excited about AI, what it can do, how it can integrate into people's lives, how it's integrating into my life, how it is changing the workplace, how it is changing market research. But I think one of the big things that we see is sort of across that spectrum of opinion of what is AI doing, how is it being received? While you have, maybe corporates, maybe tech specialists that are, evangelists for it. At the other end, you've got consumers who are, not as optimistic and perhaps, quite skeptical about what AI can do for them. And there's a huge range of opinion in between there. I was presenting at the Technology for Marketing conference back end of last year. One of the key headline stats that came out, 13%, only 13% of Brits are excited or optimistic about AI. And that's the consumer view. At YouGov, personally, we are very excited about AI, but its deployment is strategic, it's measured, and so we're doing it very transparent, especially with our clients, on where is it, what are we using it for, and what are the benefits and what are the potential pitfalls of us deploying AI across the business.
I've got to jump into this consumer excitement piece. 13%. I mean, if I had to have guessed, I would have guessed maybe treble that number. I think it's really fascinating how business is, and these tech evangelists you're talking about, running way ahead on this, whereas, as you say, the consumer or the users or the employees or whoever it is, actually way further behind, as at least at a sentiment level.
And I think it is a sentiment level. I mean, interestingly, that we did that study in, I think it was 11 markets. And the further east you go from the UK, the more excited the population gets.
Really?
So if you're talking about people in India or the UAE, actually, excitement and optimism is up at around 50%.
Wow.
And so, but I think tech evangelists, big corporates, they're heavily invested in it. It's absolutely, they should be the evangelists of this. But it's about bringing consumers along a journey, and communicating, articulating, and proving the benefits of AI in everyday life.
Yeah, I think that's so right. And the lesson that I think one of the big lessons that we've learned in my business, Instant Impact, is that you've got to go with this, but with any change program, really, you've got to go slow to go quick, and bringing people on the journey is a non-negotiable. Really.
Oh, absolutely. And but that's with any business change, any new technology, any change in process. One of the key things is about bringing the people along with you, and taking them through that journey.
And I just want to dwell on the 13% is so interesting, because there's a way of thinking that I think a friend of mine was talking me through, and he sort of specialized in tech change. He was saying, you always think about, I can't remember the exact name, I think it was Tracy in finance. And Tracy is basically 5 years away from retiring. She's done everything the same way. And if you can explain it to Tracy and get Tracy excited about it, everyone will be on board. It was sort of a yardstick they used for the comms that they were using. The 13%, what that shows me is that it's not an exception piece. It's that the vast majority of people are not yet in that excitement camp. Did you get the other side of things?
Yeah, we absolutely captured the other side of things. 40% of people say that they are concerned or worried about and the exact question was something along the lines of, how would you describe your thoughts and feelings towards the increasing role of AI in everyday life over the next 10 years? So 40% of people saying that they are worried or skeptical about that.
That's huge. And a really stark reminder. I wonder, how has that knowledge, and presumably you've done others previously to sort of understand your own organization, how's that tempered the way that you've gone about, or informed the way that you've gone about AI rollout within YouGov?
So it provides us with a very solid grounding, and so that holding up a mirror, if you like, that just because tech people in our business, leaders in our business get excited about AI doesn't mean that everybody else will. And you can see that consumer point of view as well as talking to staff. But it means that what we've done is, in terms of rollouts, we're looking at it in a number of different ways. We've got very much top down. This is what's coming from our chief technology officer or our chief product officer in terms of the processes that we use to crunch data, the new features that we put onto our platform or our products. We've got our COO looking at defined processes within the business and how AI can support those. But one of the things that I've also been encouraging is from the bottom up. So we now run regular lunch and learns, and what we do is we take somebody from the business who's volunteered, stuck their hand up, to say, this is how I personally am using AI in my day-to-day. And that could be a salesperson. That could be a researcher. But it's small hints, tips, tricks, of course, sanctioned by our governance team.
Of course.
Just to say, look, actually, it's nothing to be scared of. And what we're doing is rolling out AI in a way that is, if you like, both top down and bottom up.
Yeah. And I think that sort of peer learning, the sort of social proof piece is so powerful, isn't it?
It really is. It really is. People, they obviously learn differently. It's a slightly informal setting. And, it's somebody just like them rather than a very senior leader talking about, well, this is the future.
And within that sort of top down, bottom up, what's the sort of your weighting of excitement? I guess, how do you think about how excited you are, around, would success look more like YouGov choosing the right tools and building the right products and rolling that out to the client suite? Or is it more around the cultural change of people experimenting and learning and iterating in their day to day? How do you think about those two parallel yet quite separate processes?
I don't think there's a question of either of those winning. Or like most businesses, striving for growth. We want to ensure that we've got the best products, coupled with we know we've got the best data. But in order to allow clients to access that, democratize it, use it, gain insight from it, and fuel their decision making. So we want to have the best AI solutions in our products and our services. But we also want to empower staff to enable them to do their jobs faster, more efficiently, and get rid of the drudgery bits. I mean, in market research, especially, back from when I started in this industry, there's some awfully tedious tasks. And technology has been slowly getting rid of those. AI, I see as sort of just another way of getting rid of some of the tedium, empowering people and giving them better job satisfaction.
And how, I guess on that latter point, the sort of empowering people to do their work, how does this play in? Has this changed your people philosophy? Has this changed the expectations you have from your workforce and the expectations that they have on you as an employer? Has this changed what a successful hire or a successful employee looks like at YouGov? I
think it's changing, for sure. I don't think we can ever say that it's fundamentally right. It's now changed and it's a step. One thing that I've always been exceedingly keen on is, if you're talking about new hires, you hire someone based on character, ability to learn, especially in the age of AI. As we can teach research. It's much harder to teach curiosity. It's much harder to teach experimentation. So in that regard, I think AI is certainly changing the types of people that we hire, and has been for some time. Expectations for employees, are they changing significantly? I would say so. I mean, they're always looking, but not necessarily fundamentally. They're always still looking for the same sort of thing. It's they're bringing to the table, what can I do for the business? And they're looking to the business to say, what can the business do for me? One of those fundamental pillars of all staff is training and education. And AI is just sort of a big topic there that says, okay, what can the business do to improve my skill set, improve my knowledge, improve my working practices, and potentially take away some of the more tedious tasks that are, just are part of the day-to-day in research. Yeah, it's really interesting. And it's because of the world and instant impacts involved with, we get a really interesting snapshot into that upskilling piece. And one of the things that we've identified is
candidates, and it's, as you know, a very challenging, in a lot of industries, very challenging employment market right now. But a lot of candidates who are job seeking are also taking the time to upskill themselves in use of AI at a pace that those in jobs are usually unable to do. And so I think there's going to be an increased expectation on organizations, or I think there should be, to invest in that upskilling as well.
It very much so. And I think that's really interesting, your observation there of those in work versus those currently seeking work and the pace of learning. That's something that's really interesting and, we'll certainly take on board.
Well, I think one of the things that I think would be well worth considering for all organizations is, we all know there's so much to learn in a relatively short amount of time. And I would imagine that's going to be a time constraint, maybe next 2-3 years, where we're going through all of this change. I mean, having people who are able to pick up these skills is so key. Why not, reduce individual targets by 20%, but increase expectations to pick up skills for a 6-month period of time? I'll take that one away. That's a bit of a challenge for you.
Thank you.
I'd love to go into, you're in this such an interesting space. You must be doing some really cool things for your clients and your product set. I'd love to hear. Everyone talks about the challenge of getting your data set right.
Yep.
You guys have that. What does that mean you can build?
So just to give you a flavor of a couple of things coming off the product roadmap or have actually landed. One of the challenges or perceived challenges with YouGov is we've got so much data that some clients almost don't know where to start. So we've introduced an AI agent that sits on our profiles platform. So you can now, rather than just search the data and do your own analysis, just ask it a question, have a conversation with it, and it will present results back to you in the same way that you would with ChatGPT or any other good AI agent. We've got a new product that we're actually sort of in beta testing at the moment, which is using an AI chatbot to interview YouGov panelists. So if you think about almost going full circle in market research, in the old days, it started with an interviewer and a respondent. Online replaced all of that. And now we're going back to almost an interviewer talking to a panelist. Now that does a number of things. It allows you to have better engagement with the panelist. It allows you to get deeper insight compared to just what else do you think? You get a response that is 3, 4, 5 times better when you've actually got a more tailored question stuck in front of someone.
And just to clarify, it went from interviewer to sort of, when you say online, you mean online survey. So they can only click or type in their response, right? And now it's gone back where you can say, oh, that's interesting. Blah, 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 blah.
Exactly. And now you've got a more free flowing and agile way of having a conversation with someone that you can then translate through thematic AI analysis into meaningful data. And that's only possible with the AI technology. And in fact, with YouGov's panel, because we're so engaged with our panelists.
That's really cool.
It is really cool. It's, if you're familiar with sort of market research terminology, it's qualitative style interviewing at mass scale.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the really cool facets of AI is that it just breaks down barriers to do all the stuff that we wish we could have done, but didn't have the time and resources to do it. There's obviously, from what I've been reading, sort of rise in things like synthetic audiences. So essentially creating mock audiences of buyers or consumers, whatever it is, and then asking them the questions. Is that an area that you're looking at? Where do you see the excitement, limitations, risks there?
Sure. Synthetic data in the market research industry is a massive debate. In fact, the MRS or Real Research Live published an article on that last week before, and it does divide opinion. At YouGov, we are very much of the opinion that use AI, use imputation by all means, but everything has to be grounded in reality. Our tagline is research reality. It is high quality responses from genuine people, not just letting AI loose to make up some data. What AI is very, very good at is synthesizing huge amounts of data. I would argue it's not so good at prediction, which by human nature is not always logical or rational. And that's the bit that I think AI is going to struggle with at the moment.
That's really interesting. I think this sort of businesses being run by rationality and past performance and things like that, it is always this limiting factor to what's possible and what's true and all the rest of it. So I really hear you on that. I'd love to understand. So you're building all these cool tools, and it sounds like AI in a responsible and high quality way is going to be a big part of your product set going forwards. How about internally? You mentioned the sort of bottom up piece. I wonder whether you could share how your AI rollout's going, whether you've learned any big lessons along the way.
Sure. Let me talk about sales, because I think that was quite an interesting one. We invested in a AI-based solution that would sit on top of our CRM system. The idea being that it would provide greater transparency. It would improve our capability of training, better forecasting, better collaboration. And essentially what it does is all calls that are made by the salespeople are recorded. They can then be shared. They are transcribed. They are summarized by AI. You can press a little button and say, generate follow-up email.
Nice.
And off, it doesn't get it perfect. It gets about 90% correct. A quick edit and off it goes. All of that is then sort of stitched together at the back end. So you've suddenly got a step change improvement in salesperson's efficiency or potential efficiency. One of the challenges that we had with that very early on was the whole piece around call recording, because there was pushback from quite a number of salespeople and staff on this is just Big Brother watching us, and we sold it into the business in the wrong way. And I've been I've been quite public about that, including with the vendor. And so I think got to think about this in terms of look at it from all angles of how this could potentially land. And just saying to people, better, faster, more efficient isn't necessarily the right way to do it. You've got to think very carefully about how will the message land? How can it genuinely make an improvement to people's day-to-day? And be very transparent about what it will and won't do.
I think that's really wise. How has that all played out now that you realize that you've made a mistake? Have you gone on to a different provider? Have you rolled it back? Are you still using it?
Still using it. Haven't rolled it back. We persevered. We educated. We were very transparent about actually how we were going to use the data. And through people's experience and through the experience of interactions with their managers, no one's been hauled over the coals for, as a result of, watching a video back. And in fact, now people can see all of the benefits of it, including, their increased speed, their increased efficiency, their pipeline, sort of value climbing, as well as the ability to share, collaborate, and improve.
Well, you get a salesperson's commission improving. It's always It's always going to help.
Then you found the gold. That's right.
If you had your time again, then obviously you said share the right message. How would you go about getting the right message?
I think that is difficult. With something that is a new technology that people haven't seen before, no one's got necessarily experience of, it's very difficult to land it with one single message and get it right every single time. I think what if I had the time again, what I'd do is say, look, these are all the potential things that it can do. Which ones of these do you like? Which ones of these do you have concerns about? And do it with potentially pilot it with a smaller group of individuals and let them feed into, okay, this is how I've used it. This is the messaging that should come across. These are the things to avoid.
It's that sort of go slow to go fast.
Go slow to go fast. Yes.
Which, I don't know how many times I have to learn that lesson.
Yeah. It really is. I use slow down to speed up. But it's exactly the same ethos.
Yeah, that's really, really interesting. I wonder why. So you mentioned sales came to mind as a quick one. It feels like a lot of companies are focusing on their sales teams first.
Why?
Why? I wonder if that was one of the teams that you started with. What was the rationale of starting with them first?
Arguably because it's easier. And there are a whole series of vendors out there with AI-based plug-and-play solutions that will sit right on top of your CRM. It's not a case of you have to, look at the entire infrastructure of the entire business from back to front. Actually, you can experiment slightly easier or more easily over there in sales, rather than sort of take the whole YouGov engine apart. So slightly easier experimentation and a sort of a plethora of suppliers out there.
An easy business case, I suppose.
An easy business case.
As well. Nice. Well, that's fascinating. I'm really, really looking forward to paying close attention and seeing how the AI journey plays out over at YouGov. I wonder, what have you got in mind for the future when you're sitting around with your leadership team? What are the big things that you've got your eyes on?
Growth is the outcome, and things that will support us along that way. More interesting jobs for our staff. Ways that we can gain competitive advantage and deliver that to our clients. Those are the sort of the big things that we're looking at. I'm not sure I can go into too much detail about the next big AI project, but do watch this space because it is super exciting in terms of what we're doing.
I'm really looking forward to finding out more about it. I'm really, one of the things that's really come across today is how, yes, of course, we've been talking about efficiencies, we've been talking about the mundane elements of the role, but it feels like where your eyes are really, as an organization, where they're really fixed is what's the future, where's the value, how can we improve things for our clients? It really feels like you've got your eyes on that value add piece.
Absolutely. Because that's the most interesting bit, I think. And if we can get that right, then our clients will thank us that much more, and it will make everything easier. As we're successful and our clients are more successful.
Absolutely. Well, I'm afraid that's all we've got time for, but thank you so much for coming on the show.
No, thank you very much for having me.